Good afternoon, everyone. Mary Sloane here with another episode of Inspirational Influencer News. Secrets of people making money while making a difference. And my guest this afternoon, Melody Owen, is definitely one of those people who is making a difference, particularly if you feel you have a book inside of you. Melody Ann is the founder of Author Nation, a community of authors for authors. She believes that everyone has a story and that as we write and publish our books, we should have access to the support and knowledge we need to succeed. In other words, I'm going to presume that your story is your book that needs to come out and be said so others can share in it. But I'll let her tell us more of that. Melody Ann is also a storyteller, book coach, and an editor. So if you really need to get it done and you'd like some help, you can definitely talk with her. And today, her show is called Authors Succeeding Together. So what is it that you really want people to know at the point in time that you're dealing with them?
I think one of the most important things for people to know who want to write a book is that the publishing world has changed dramatically. And there are multiple ways to get published in today's world, and that getting some help from people who've been there and done that is the best way to make sure you don't miss things, that you don't choose services that are not on the up and up, that you don't get overwhelmed or make common mistakes. And that's why I have a community of authors, because I believe that in today's world, authors need authors. And actually, authorship is a magical industry, because we actually should be promoting each other. You know, unlike car sales, you only buy one car, you buy lots of books. So there's so much benefit in having a community.
Well, I mean, I can think of that, promotion being really good for everybody, because as you're growing your community, they're going to be looking for other people who might have interesting books. Because like you say, I mean, I'm never without 3 or 4 books. And this is somebody who says, I can never find time to read a book, but I've always got one on the go here, one on the go there. I mean, it's just kind of like the thing we do. And so, and I'm a book person. I've always loved books. I actually taught myself to read and started reading before I was 2 years old. And I know that sounds amazing, but, as a little kid, I didn't know it was amazing. I just knew that there were stories in there, and if I could somehow read them, I'd get them. And my mom had no time to teach me because she was teaching piano. So I just thought, oh, she can read, I can read. Okay, let's go. And somehow it worked out. But so, I mean, my love of books goes incredibly deep. I mean, I remember Christmases, and my mother wanted so much to give me beautiful dolls. So she'd bring me a beautiful doll, and I'd go, oh, thanks, Mom. What book did you get me?
That's so wonderful.
So I get it. Books are a big part of our lives. And I mean, they are definitely something that make our lives beautiful.
Absolutely. And one thing that, so one of my authors came to me and said, oh, I found a book almost exactly like mine. There's no point in writing anymore. There's no point in publishing anymore. And I said, wait a minute, how many books of a certain genre do you read? More than one. Exactly. And so if you find a book similar to yours, that is good news. And you can go to that author and say, hey, you know what? If they're going to read your book, they're probably going to read my book. Let's share some promotion here. Let's put our heads together and get more readers for our books that are similar yet different, right? Because even on the same topic, every author has their own ideas, has their own way of expressing it, has different stories that different readers might relate to. And so, yeah, I love the idea of collaboration and working together and seeing how many readers like you, Mary, that we can find who want to have a book on the go over here and a book on the go over there, right?
Absolutely. And you're right too, because I do binge read on a subject that I've gotten interested in. If I get interested in something, I'm like, okay, so what else can I read on this? Because I like to go deep into subjects. And so, probably, like I got interested in branding and have started doing a lot of work around branding. I must have read 10 books on branding, because it was interesting. And everybody has a different cut on it, which is interesting because before I kind of started delving into it more deeply, thought, well, branding's branding, isn't it? Nope.
Yeah.
And so, let's write more books on the same subjects, because then people like me who like to go deep will go, yes, I want one from her, one from him, and one from, whatever.
and having reading different books on the same topic gives you different perspectives and ideas, and they may have ideas that are different. They may have their own, different authors have their own opinions. And if you get a variety of opinions as the reader, you get to pick what you best believe in and what's going to work for you, because not everyone's solution works for everyone. And that's something books are wonderful for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how do you find that magical book that's inside of you? The one that you really want to put out an entire book on.
Yeah. I think different people come at it from different angles. I know that some people at some point in their life, sometimes very early on, say, I want to be a writer, I want to write a book. But they may not know the topic. And so from there, they have to figure out what they're passionate about and go on a learning spree and learn about it and start doing it so that they can come back and write the book. Other people have been in an industry for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. And now they're saying, I've been around a long time. I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of changes, and I have some ideas, and I can help younger people coming into the industry with, succeeding in the industry, or I can help clients succeed doing what they need to do because I have a wealth of experience. And then other people live amazing, adventurous lives and say, okay, I have a story to tell about the time that I landed in Russia when I thought I was going to Finland, and, and Heron starts the story, right? And so I think different people come to their story, to their book in different ways. I'm not sure there's a right way to come to a book. I think it comes up when you're ready. Yeah. And when you're ready, grab it and run with it is what I say. Yeah.
Well, I think probably it's easier if the book comes to you rather than you sitting down and going, okay, I've got to write a book now, which I think would be the hard way to go about it. It's like, really?
Yeah. Most of my clients, they have a book in them that they just can't, it must get out, right? They're like, it's been sitting there, it's driving me crazy, I have to get it out. I think that happens more often than somebody who comes and says, I want to write a book, I don't know what to write it on. But what does happen is I get people who come in and say, look, I've been doing this for years. I could write 5 different books. I could write, where do I start? What book do I write first? And that's a really good question. And we sit down and we figure out, what's that first book? What's the best first book? And there are a number of factors we can look at to determine that. And then once they're finished that book, then they can run off with book 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? But sometimes when they have so many ideas, they get muddled, and then people end up not writing anything because they're trying to write 5 books in one. So it's good to kind of have that larger view on what book is actually what book, right? Like which subject matter is just enough for one book without putting too much in. Yeah.
That's a very, very tricky question. I'm sure that it would be nice to have a coach who has been there and seen a lot of it, because I'd be the type of person who'd likely stuff a lot in. Oh, I can write about this, and oh, I have this, and what about that? And then I'd have this monstrous book. Nobody did read it.
And memoirs do that. People will come and they're like, okay, so I've written War and Peace, but my life version, right? And you're like, well, most people don't want to read. How many people have actually read War and Peace, right? Most people don't want to read a book that long. And so then it's a question of how do you pull out the relevant story? And there are people who have 3-4 memoirs, and that's fine. But you need to pull out the stories, the consistent stories, so that you have a book that makes sense for the reader, right? And you can't, I'm sorry, but don't publish a War and Peace memoir because people won't read it. Just won't.
No, like you said, very few people have even managed to get through War and Peace. So, and it's been covered, so don't do it again.
Yeah.
So where do they get started? Do they just have this feeling that they need to write a book, or how do they get started? I mean, what is the motivation that generally moves somebody to go, I should go see Melody. I think it's time to write a book.
I think a common way that people come to me is that they've started a book. They have a book on the go, and they are either overwhelmed or they're lost, and they have what I call shelved the book. So we want our books on shelves, but we want our published books on shelves, not our unfinished manuscripts on shelves. And so when you have an unfinished manuscript on a shelf, or you have a beginning of a book and you're stuck, that's when most people come to see me, because they just didn't quite realize that they needed that extra support to kind of write to write the right book, and to write a book that people really want to read, right? So what do we want as authors? We want readers, we want reviews, and we want recommendations. And that's not easy. That means that the book is of a quality, the ideas, the organization, the structure, the words, the stories, the content, that people are really excited about, not just reading it themselves, but taking the time to write a review. We're how busy we are. When somebody takes the time to write you a review, you're like, okay, they must have really loved it, and to recommend it to friends. And so most people come to me after they've started and they realize that they need support and they're stuck. There are a few people who are that, like those uber organized people. It's like, I have a book in me. Who do I go to? Right. And they come to me before they even start. But that is less common. Most people come to me stuck, and I help them get unstuck and finish the book. Because did you know only 3% of people who want to write a book actually finish writing the book? It's actually a really low percent. So I call it the 3% club. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, because you hear a lot about it. And I have to confess, I've been to a few writing classes, and I kind of got the outline for a book done, or I started to write a book, and I've got 5 or 6 of those probably on hard drives, that I never got finished. I never completed.
Yeah, you and many others. And so when you in that position, that's when you come to me and I help you. So what we do is we create a plan. We actually sit down with you and say, okay, how does this book fit into your life? And we create a plan, we create an outline, and we create a timeline. You would look at your budget, and I'll say, okay, if this is your budget, these are the most important things. And so you want to allocate money to these, and these are less important. So I really help authors get that whole picture. And then we do the timeline, they'll know, okay, I need to write X number of words each week for this long to get the first draft done. And then I need to, and then I need to, and then I need to. I'll lay it all out for people, so they're not flailing and lost and on Google going, well, what do I do next? Right? I lay it all out for people.
Good old
Google. I think that's where the magic lies. I think that's one of the pieces of magic in what I do that helps people actually finish the book, is that here it is. You don't have, and planning's great, but sticking to a plan religiously without any flexibility is harmful. And so we make room for flexibility as well.
That's great. That's great. And it's great to have somebody like you who's been there and been down that road with a lot of authors. And I think it's great that you've got a community of authors so that people can talk with other people and sort of, I guess, gain perspective and probably motivation by what other people are doing. I mean, oh, she just finished her book. Oh, well, I guess I can get mine done too.
Yes. Yes. Actually, just today, so every Monday we have a writing session. And one of my authors called it magic. He went from procrastination to productive. Because every Monday he has to show up, and he knows that he has to show up, and showing up means he does more work during the week and he actually gets more done. And it's funny because when he started, he was writing a book, and he's finished a book, and he's got 4 more projects now. So he's gonna got the bug, and he's gonna keep going. But that's one of the pieces of magic. It's part of why you want to be in a community. We have weekly writing sessions. We have monthly group coaching. There's a way to access me every day. There's a place where if you have a question, you can write a question and I'll be there and I'll answer the question. So as soon as you're starting to feel stuck, you can get a resource and get unstuck. And that's why I built the community. A lot of authors don't want to pay that really expensive book coach price. They don't want to spend $10,000 just on a book coach, right? And so being a book coach, I realized that, and I still take on one-on-one clients who want me to project manage the whole thing. But there are another subset of people who say, I mostly want to do it myself, but I want to be in an environment where I can talk to other people. And if I'm feeling frustrated or overwhelmed or stuck or any of these things, there's somebody to reach out to who can help me calm down, help me find an answer, help me sort out my priorities or whatever it is I need to do at the moment. And I think that's the best part of the community. And that's why I built it, because yes, I could take the high-end clients and live off of that's great. But I think there's all these amazing human beings who want to do a lot of it themselves, but really need the support behind it. And that was my whole purpose in building Author Nation. Yeah.
That's great. So how much time would you say? I mean, I've just heard a lot of stories about editing time. That editing time can be longer than writing time.
Yes.
Is that true?
Absolutely. So it depends. I know people who wrote their book while watching their kids play sports. So every week they brought their phone and they would talk into their phone and it would be transcribed. And that's when they did their book writing while they were cheering on their kids at sport. That took, they got to do that twice a week over many months. That took a longer time to write. I know people who say, okay, I'm going to take an entire week off of work and I'm going to do nothing but write. And they walk into a resort or a retreat or their own vacation, or they lock themselves into a room in their house every day, and they just bang out the first draft of the book, right? Well, I guarantee if you give it to an editor, they're probably not going to return it in a week. So you could write it in a week. So I have people who write at all different paces. I have someone who earlier today we were in a writing session, and one of my authors, their goal is to do 6,000 words a week. They're not on their first book. This is an authorpreneur, someone who's been writing for a long time, has more than one published book. And somebody else said, I can't imagine writing 6,000 words a week. And that's okay. There's no, when you come to our events, not everyone is supposed to be writing 1,000 words a week. You have your own plan. And so one person might be just writing 1,000 words a week, maybe 250 words 4 times a day. They're still going to get their book done. It'll take, let's say, 1,000 words a day times 50,000, 50,000 words, that's 50 weeks. And that's perfectly fine, right? So can editing take longer? Yes. Can writing take longer than editing? Yes. It really depends.
And do you ever find people who try to self-edit, or do you sort of insist they go get an editor who's not them?
So I don't insist anything. I support authors based on where they're at. But one thing I do is that, if because the reason why authors don't want to get editors is budget, right? And so when you don't have a big budget for your book, then you're afraid to spend money on things like editing and book covers. And, you're trying to kind of get it done on your own. And I get that. So what I do with authors, and I sit down and I say, okay, what are the goals of the book? Like, how is this book going to pay for itself? How are you going to make money back? What's the return on investment here? And if you can't figure out the return on investment, then I ask, why are you publishing the book? And maybe it's a legacy book. Okay, it's a legacy book. If it's a legacy book and you're not really out to make a certain amount of money, what's your budget to go in, right? And so we look at all the different pieces. And then if somebody says, well, I don't have a big budget, I say, okay, well, these are the really important pieces. You need to do these pieces if you want a higher quality book. If you don't want to spend any money and you want to do it all yourself, that's great. Here are some ideas to get feedback on your book that won't cost as much money, but that will take you a lot more time. And so depending on what your goals are, depending on what your budget is, depending on your timeline and all of those pieces, then I will help somebody through it. That said, I believe that if you want a high quality book, you want to leave a legacy, you want to make money back on the book, you want it to actually serve you well and the readers well, I think you want to invest in editing and design, because a book cover says a lot. I don't know about you, but I've seen some bad book covers. And people don't buy those books. And then authors come to me and say, I don't understand why nobody buys my book. And I look at the book and I'm like, the cover doesn't say anything about it. So unfortunately, packaging matters.
Yes, packaging matters, and all these details matter. So, would you say that it's a really good plan for most people to figure out how they are going to monetize the book before they ever get started?
Yes. And this is another point. Authors come to me, oh, it's not about the money. And I say, okay, so you're willing to invest $5,000, $10,000 and not make any money back? Like, you must be rich. Great. And they're like, no. And I said, okay. So as much as you don't want it to be about the money, and that doesn't have to be the first priority, getting your message out can be equally important, but you do want a plan. If you're going to invest money in it, you want a plan to at least make that money back. And you're putting a lot of time in. So wouldn't it be great if you made enough money to compensate you for your time? And wouldn't it be great if it actually brought you new clients, new business, and you can build a business around it? Wouldn't that be amazing? And how can we do that? And depending on the person, some people are like, no, it's really just a legacy thing. And I've made enough money and I'm retiring and I just really want to do this project and give back. And so I don't really want to have a whole business behind it because I'm retiring. And then we approach the book differently. Right. And if somebody says, yes, I want this book to build my business, then we approach it in a different way then. So really, and then I have authors who come, they want to be authorpreneurs. I've got 6 books. And how do I build my career as I write my books? And so each scenario is different and we approach it differently. And just to be clear, I only work with nonfiction authors. And so when I'm talking about authorpreneurs, I'm not talking about fantasy or sci-fi or romance or mystery or thrillers. I'm talking about nonfiction authors who are authorpreneurs and have more than one book in them in that particular genre.
Yeah, I think that most of the people that I talk to, because I talk to mostly people in the coaching world, and I think for a lot of them, of course, the book is one of those things, right? For a lot of them, it's their idea of, well, I'll start there and that'll make my business. Or I think the thing that I hear most they find great disappointment is that they said, well, I wrote the book thinking it would sell a lot and it didn't sell that many. And I went, did you ask anybody? Really, did you ask anybody? Because I think trying to, even I don't think the best-selling authors make a ton of money. with their nonfiction books. I mean, the fiction books are another whole story, but you know, I think it's kind of good to have a plan for the money.
Yes, in fact, I was speaking to someone earlier today. He's he is he's writing a book because he wants to build a business, and so we were talking about, it's not write a book and there's a business, right? What are all the pieces? And we were talking about how he can put the piece together. So people come to me to write a book, but what they often are coming to me to do is to build a business. Because they have a lot of content. So really they're content creators who want to build a business around a program, a course, a book, a workbook, a community, or whatever it happens to be. And, the book is kind of the way in. It's that central asset, that central content piece that then they use to build out their email list. Yes, because my authors, they have email lists. Right? It's not like you're an author and you don't need an email list. They have email lists, they have websites, they have downloads, they have, all the other pieces that belong to a business, but it's just centered around this book.
And if people have a business and have a kind of a website already, do they then add the book to that website, or do you recommend a special website dedicated to the book?
Again, it depends on their goals. Definitely, most people want to at least add the book to the website. But some people have a book that doesn't really relate to their business or website, and then we don't add it, and we create a website for the book and an email list for the book, because they are sometimes transitioning careers, and they're writing the book is kind of the first step while they're working to making that career transition. And so again, I'm sorry, I keep saying it depends, but we really want to understand each individual author's goals and create a plan that is the right fit for them, rather than having cookie cutter. And there are coaching programs that are very cookie cutter, right? You come in, you're going to write this many words, you're going to go into editing here, you're going to design there, you're going to publish here, and we're all going to support each other. But that's not what I do. It's because I am a book coach and an editor, and I do bespoke work, which is very expensive. I've taken all of those ideas and I've brought it down into a community that is that everyone can do, right? Everyone can participate in, because that was my goal, that it wasn't just for people who are willing to throw around $20,000 to get a book out, that anyone could do this. And everyone deserves the support who has the dedication to write a book.
And so do all of your different authors, like people that you are literally handholding or writing the book for them, or on their behalf or whatever, are they in the same community, or is it a separate community?
Yeah, no, it's one community. It's one community. And it's, having the resources are the same. The events are the same. If I'm doing the actual project management, then we also have our own piece as well, our private piece. But if you're doing the plan in the community, so I will help you create the plan, and then you go into the community, then you're in the community. But everyone can be in the community. Everyone. I even have fiction authors in my community, because they say they benefit from it, even though I don't work with fiction authors, but they find benefit, and so they join.
Well, I would think that having a group where, if you're a writer, no matter what you're writing, maybe even long essays, for heaven's sakes, having somebody there to talk to, because writing for any period of time can be lonely. And yes. It's like, okay, who do I talk to now? I mean, it would be nice just to converse with a human being.
Yes. And to that end, I hold networking events every month, and they're free. They're a free part of the community. Every month, any author, any genre can come and meet other authors. We do that once a month. And I'm also very responsive in the community. Sometimes somebody comes along and I'm a fiction author, but I have a question. And if I know, because I know a lot of people, if I know someone who can support them, I'll say, you know what, I suggest you go talk to, whoever it is. They're really good with romance, or they're really good with sci-fi or whatnot. I really want to help all authors. And so I have a lot of resources I can send people out to if I'm not the right fit, or if they're working on books that I just don't work on.
So I have to ask you, because AI seems to be the big thing today.
Right.
And so how much is AI helping authors right now? And for those of you, I know I hate people who use acronyms. I started the IHAC because I hate acronyms. So I turned it into a club. But in any event, AI for artificial intelligence. And, just so that you don't get too freaked out, I mean, most of us have Gmail, and you may notice that you get a suggestion to finish a lot of your sentences. That's AI.
Yes.
So it's not like some freaky thing. It's just that we can have aids now to help us write, to find the next, and they can do pretty amazing things. So how much is that used?
So I tested out a couple of the AI programs. I'm going to put in some topics and I got some stuff, and then I put what the AI spat out into Google, and it brought up the original website, and it was word for word. That's called plagiarism. And organizations like Amazon get on that stuff. And so I don't know if, when you post something to YouTube now, they actually do a check to make sure that there's nothing, that you aren't, posting something that's being posted previously. So AI is helping people write books, but some of those land up being legally what we call plagiarism. And AI is also helping companies make sure people aren't plagiarizing, right? So my advice to authors is, if you're going to use the AI or those like paraphrasing, this is the other type of AI, they paraphrase things.
Well, even
be very careful.
What I was thinking was things like Otter AI, where instead of writing, you can actually dictate, like you said.
Yes.
People who dictate their work while they're watching their kids' soccer game.
Exactly. Yes.
That too is AI. And
that is brilliant. So
that can be great.
Though that kind of AI is great. The kind that's spitting out the book because I've seen people write a book in a weekend, and all they're really doing is taking AI and throwing whatever comes into AI and then putting it into a document and turning that into a book. Some of those people are going to get charged, you're going to get caught, and plagiarism is a big deal, right? So I wouldn't recommend that. Otter, yes, like the artificial intelligence that takes speech to text, that's a great idea. So I love artificial intelligence. I love technology. Use it wisely is my advice.
Well, and I think that plagiarism thing, and it's kind of like people who even try to cheat on the AI. I mean, they're not even being good to the AI, because AI doesn't have to do that. AI could happily take 5 or 6 different ideas and create several different options for you. I've seen it do that too. Some of us who have content to churn out fairly frequently love the fact that we can put in a couple of ideas and suddenly have a whole article presented to us, and
yes.
Then I always mess with it because it has to sound like me. And so, but then I've got the whole article, right? I just have to change a couple of things and it's like me. So I'm glad to hear things like Otter AI and things are highly respected in the book publishing world, because I mean, those are things that really can be an amazing gift.
Absolutely. Yes. There are certain technologies I absolutely love. I've noticed that some of the artificial intelligence leads people down the path of plagiarism, which can get them into trouble. And I just don't want people to get into trouble.
That's a good hint.
Yeah.
So how can people best get hold of you? Because can you believe it? We're running out of time again. I don't know how this show goes by so fast. But anyway, here we are. And so how can people get hold of you?
I have two suggestions. If you are starting a book and you want a planning checklist, you can download the Author Nation nonfiction planning checklist at authornation.online.
AuthorNation.online. So pay attention because it's not .com.
No, authornation.online. And if you'd like to join the community, even just the free community, and then talk to me about everything we do, you can join us at authornation.community.
Oh, very cool.
Nice and simple. authornation.community.
Yeah, that's great use of those endings because they're memorable. You know, I mean, it's like for my show, Inspirational Influencer News, I got there too late, or somebody had already heard me and thought, oh, I'll just grab the domain before she gets here. And so I went, oh, that's cool. Inspirationalinfluencer.news. So
yep. Love that.
Anyway, it's all good, and thank you so much. It was wonderful, and
Mary, thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
You're wonderful.
Absolutely.